Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a young lady that I've had the pleasure of knowing, I would say, almost a decade now. She is a woman of God. She has an incredible sense of humor. She's a mom. She's an author, and she's just a woman who it just knows how to just bring some energy to the room. It could be a gloomy moment or whatever, and she just has a way of just kind of spicing it all up for you. And she's taking some time out of her busy schedule today to join us and sharing a little bit of her journey dealing with adversity and how to overcome challenges in hopes of inspiring and encouraging others. So without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Miss Asha Turner. Asha, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Absolutely. 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 So, Asha, before we jump into our segments of the show, I do want you to have an opportunity to share a little bit with the audience, a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, any little snippets that you'd like to share. Just kind of give the audience a taste of who is Asha Turner.
I'm, I guess, technically from Illinois, born overseas. My father was in the military, so I was born overseas in Germany, but I hail from Illinois and have relocated here to Texas. Um, I'm a recent deferred retiree, and I, I think I'm pretty. I'm not materialistic or anything like that. I think I'm pretty much a simple, no frills kind of person. But in the midst of all of that, I do understand that that my journey has a lot of shine on it because of the fire that I've been through. But I am a mother. My son is 20, and just being just glad to be here, glad to share a portion of my journey in hopes that someone else can be helped or blessed or encouraged through what I've gone through. And I'm going to try to tone down the humor, but it may come up. Just know it may come through. But sometimes, the Bible says laughter is like a medicine,
There we
and I
go.
just, I always get a daily dose.
Well, that sounds good to me. And again, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. And no apologies up front needed about the humor. Again, that was one of the things I highlighted in introducing you, that you have a sense of humor. And so it just adds that necessary injection into the show and keeps everybody engaged. So again, just be led as you feel the need to be led accordingly. So with that said, Aisha, I think I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to the choir in this regard, but when we talk about our journeys in life, you really can't get the full scope of a journey and really understand it to its fullest extent without going back to the beginnings. And so this is the point in time where I want to do just that with you. I want us to go back to the beginnings. And so if you would take us back, you said, hey, I'm born in Illinois. Kind of take us back to that childhood and talk to us about what was it like for you growing up. Any fond memories that may come to mind, as well as if there's any challenges that you'd like to share that came about in the process of growing up. But if you would just kind of give us that backdrop of what life was like for you coming up.
Well, I come from a very large family. It was eight of us. My dad being in the military, so before I could remember life being life, we moved around quite a bit. Majority, well, half of us, half of the eight were born overseas. The other half were born stateside. But again, by the time I had gotten aware of just being alive, we were based in Illinois, and very quickly, the first four were all stair steppers, one year behind the other, and the last four, we actually kind of treat each other like two sets of kids. Sometimes they're spaced out a little bit, but in our home, we always had a piano in our home. Even though my mom did not play piano, my dad did not play piano, we always had a piano in our home as far as I can remember. And many addresses that I've lived at, it's funny, I can always remember the address of what we call the pink house. and that's when we were in preschool and kindergarten and elementary school. And I just remember we always had music around. We always had lots of laughter, a lot of things going on. It was always activity, especially with 8 kids. But even in the midst of, of the activities, even though my mother was a working mother, I still remember all of us gathered around the table. So our meals were not just picking up a plate, running off in front of a TV or whatever. I remember that distinctly. That we all had those family moments. And we, even though there were so many of us, we really didn't know that we had financial issues until my dad got out of the military. So it kind of seemed like everything kind of changed abruptly because we went from being on the military base, and it feels like you close your eyes, you open your eyes, and we're in a mobile home. And my dad is taking water from the motel next door, hot water, and bringing it over in buckets the to the mobile home. My mom's still working, and matter of fact, my baby brother was born was born during that time we were in the mobile home, and so we had. That's where I learned at 4 and 5 how to wash dishes. And we learned how to do, vacuum, different things that kids nowadays, they don't, they know no parts of it. They know about the little vacuum that travels, the Roomba or whatever that is that travels around. They don't know about about how to, sweep carpet and then dust and things like that. But we learned it really early because of that swift transition when my dad got out of the military. To this day, which is odd, we still don't know the backstory of why he got out of the military abruptly like he did, because it doesn't make sense to have that many children. Who the first, I think 3 of the first 4 that were born, we were all asthmatic. So we needed a lot of medical attention growing up. My oldest brother being very asthmatic. So it just, certain things just did not make sense. But what I do remember out of the experience growing up was, even though we didn't have much, my mom and dad were always positioned to share what we had. And so they very open. We had families, even though it was 8 of us. We had a family come live with us, and it was like 9 of them
Mhm.
at one point, because they did not have the heart to see people hurting or left out, rejected or forsaken. So growing up, you understand bits and pieces, but being that young and then segueing into teenage years, it was like, okay, in your teenage years, you feel like you learned a couple of things, almost know better than your parents. So it's like, okay, you guys need to be making some better decisions. Because I looked up under this Christmas tree and I got a slip and a pair of socks. Obviously, you all are not on a budget. You need to do better. We one step away from getting fruit, like on Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
And so, and so I think having that did affect, I said, affect us growing up, and affect me, growing up as far as how I look at certain things. But in the midst of those difficulties and challenges and issues, I had to look at my family and see that my family is very multi-talented. We have musicians and singers, recording artists, painters, sculptors, engineers. Those that are my son, and he's going into animation, and a lot of educators, on and my side of the family, as in my family as well. With my mom, she played the saxophone. My dad, he sings. You close your eyes and you probably think it's Sam Cooke. I promise you. And And I just found out maybe in the last couple of months that because I did not know his father or anything about his side of the family outside of on his dad's side. So it was then that I found out that his father and his uncle both played the trombone and the saxophone. And that's odd because I couldn't understand where my son got his saxophone playing skills from because he does not like to rehearse or anything like that. So it's funny what's in our bloodline that we don't know. And
Right.
all of a sudden things happen and it's like, man, mind blown. This is a part of his journey. My journey becomes, through bloodline and what have you, family, it's a part of his journey too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. I love that, and a few things that you spoke to that really stuck out to me. Of course, I always like to hear when people share their stories about just the whole family dynamic and how it used to be, whether you had a small family or a big family. Just something as simple as the meals. Unlike today, where, as you stated, we kind of grab our meal and we go to our respective corners, of the house, versus back in the day, where we still sat around the kitchen table, the dining room table, and we ate meals together. And that was our
Yeah.
time to communicate with one another and ask each other about our days. And we didn't have the distractions of the cell phones or even of the television, because
Right.
that was a no during dinner,
Right.
or any meal. That's what you just did. And then I love the fact that you spoke about just the talent base throughout the gifts throughout the home. A lot of times people may make assumptions that just because you don't have a lot of money, or maybe your living conditions may not look lavish or anything like that, that somehow that means that you lack internal talents and gifts. And so I love that you spoke to that, because it's so true. This is People need to know that that's just not a hiccup or an accident that your family happened to be that way. There are a lot of families like that, and particularly I would say a lot of Black families that are like that, because we oftentimes don't get credited for those having those type of skill sets, because just because we didn't go to the best schools, or
Right.
maybe had access to certain things amongst us, doesn't mean that we aren't gifted and talented. And some of that stuff, quite frankly, as you shared earlier, sometimes it just comes with the blood. Daddy can sing, so I can sing. This person could play an instrument, so yeah, we had a piano in the house and nobody could play that, but we could play a whole bunch of stuff, and surprisingly,
Right.
played it by ear. Just naturally kind of caught on to it. It was just a thing that happened, and it just speaks to who we are as a culture of people, and just again the importance of when you have a tight knit family like that, just how things can manifest themselves in terms of your gifts and talents, rising to the surface. And then I think the other thing that really stood out to me, which again is tends to be more of a thing of the old, versus what we see nowadays, is just the fact that even when you didn't have a lot, it was just something about families and communities back then that still opened their doors to other people to help. So I
Yeah.
might have not had enough food and I might have been stretching it for the family that I already had. But if you were hungry, then we're gonna stretch that just a little bit more to make sure you eat too, or to make sure that you had a place to lie your head and not be out in the streets, or anything of that nature. Or if we had to share clothes or make clothes or whatever, we were gonna
Right.
make a way to make that happen. Or just like you said, just the improvising, like we talked about the household chores. Yeah, because you talked about, I remember what it's like to not vacuum the carpet, but to sweep the carpet.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know about that. And
Hit them
truth be
corners.
told, you
Hit them
sweep that carpet
corners.
right, your sweeping the carpet may come out better than that expensive vacuum that you bought, if you know how to sweep it right. I remember how to clean glass with newspaper and mixing some hot water and some vinegar together. Or if a utility is off, like the gas, heating up some water on the stove to get clean with. And
Yeah.
people don't understand. If you ain't been there, you may not know that. But on the flip side, if you know, you know
Right.
what those times are like. And those are those survival skills that
Right.
allow you to, again, to make a lot out of a little. Instead of feeling sorry for yourself, instead of feeling down, you say, you know what, this is our situation, but we're in this together and we're gonna make it work. So just sharing your story, it just kind of takes you back on down that memory lane, so to speak. And that's why, in part, I like for my guests to come on and kind of talk about that beginning, because I truly believe that even in the midst of talking about it, it shapes what's to come ahead. It kind of
Yeah.
defines where the direction of your journey is going. And you even stated, yeah, as a kid, I didn't understand, why my dad abruptly one day is in the military, next minute he's not, or maybe I didn't understand why things were the way they were in terms of thin times, perhaps at the holiday Christmas time or things of that nature. But it begins to shape, it begins to form, and God doesn't make mistakes. He allows certain experiences to come our way, not to punish us or anything, but to prepare us for what He is setting us up to do in terms of use of our gifts, and how He wants our talents to be expressed of course, for the advancement of His kingdom and for the benefit of helping others who are in need of what you have to offer. So I appreciate you sharing that. So with that said, I want to go a little bit deeper with this. As we progress along in our life, and we start having those early moments of challenges and journeys, you live long enough, there will come a point in time where you begin to encounter certain circumstances and situations that just hit a little different. You may be really good at working your way through challenging and difficult moments, but every now and then, even the best of us find ourselves faced with situations where we may doubt, we may question, how am I going to get through this? This is a little bit heavier than what I'm accustomed to. This is a little bit much. This is not something I can just throw some money at. This is not something I can just make a phone call and make it go away. I'm facing a true adverse moment, and I don't know what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do, how am I going to make it. I'm feeling defeated in many ways, and I'm concerned, I'm overwhelmed, I'm scared, I'm anxious, and all the other emotions that come along with that. So with that said, I'd like to ask you to tell us about a time when you found yourself in that type of situation, where you didn't know how it was gonna, you were gonna make it through. You didn't see a way out initially. You didn't see
Yeah.
an opportunity to overcome that. What was that situation like for you, and what was ultimately that moment that you had that breakthrough where you actually started to see, okay, I am going to be able to survive this and get out of it? Because we know you survived it because you're here to talk about it today. So, if you would please share with us what story you would have that would fit that particular scenario.
Um, One thing that I didn't mention before, as far as us, me growing up in with large family and around a bunch of gifted, talented people, and is one thing I did not mention is the foundation of church in our
Okay.
lives. My dad was an ordained minister, then became an ordained elder. My earliest memories, earliest things I can think of, earliest songs I've ever heard are all religiously or gospel based, and that brought a very a wonderful wonderful experiences, in growing up, because it was in those places. It was in church, even though I was not, connected. I'll say physically to the service. I just had like a certain brokenness
Hmm.
as a child, and with that brokenness, that was my first experience of experiencing the love, not just the love of Christ, but his presence, that he was, literally what the scripture says, he's Emmanuel, God with us. He's near, and he just doesn't know me as just as being born, or me just being, existing, that he is aware, he sees me. And the first time I grew up with a lot of being picked on a lot because of the melanin, the Wakandan in my and being a dark skinned girl, and also not having, I didn't have the kind of hair that you could just put the Vaseline and water on
Right.
and brush something back. No, you was gonna have to get some chemicals, and you was gonna have to go to war. You got to bring your
Hmm.
A game if you were trying to get some stuff straightened up in here. And so it's kind of reminiscent of the India Ari, I Am Not My Hair. When
Hmm.
she mentions her, going from the perms, the pressing curls, to the relaxers, to the Jerry curls, the different things, getting the burns and all kind of stuff, and having to go to school every day and not having the financial means to, we couldn't go off to, um, we couldn't go to the salon every week, or we
Right.
didn't, and the time, the one lady that, we did have to do our hair, I mean, we came out looking like the Supremes. I was because she's only used to doing adult hairstyles. So, so her repertoire is pretty much the mushroom, that hairstyle, the mushroom. And if you didn't have enough hair, then you got a shroom, you got a half a shroom. You just didn't get the whole. And that that was a source of being picked on a lot, or really ridiculed a lot, and what have you. And I can remember one time coming home in tears. My dad was still on base, and we were going to a elementary school off base, and I was hurt because here I am in going to school off base in a school that's predominantly white. And the one black boy that's in class, he's the only boy, African American boy. I'm the only African American girl. And he chooses to pick on me in front of them. And I'm upset. And
Mm.
he was new. And he had a curl. And he had a curl. He in second grade with a curl. And he just out of order. And then so I go home, and I just don't want to eat. I'm in my room, I'm crying. I wouldn't say anything, what was going on. And my dad came home from work. And when he came home from work, he sat me to the side, and he pulled me to the side, and then he was talking to me, and I told him what happened. And he said, uh, you know, he said something that kind of changed the trajectory of my life, I believe, from since then, because he said, "Oh, to this young boy, to me, when you go back, just know that he can't beat you with your mind.
Mm.
Your mind is strong enough where he's just picking on you because he thinks you're better than him, and he thinks you're stronger than him. You thinks you're, that he's intimidated by you, so forth and so on. So here you telling somebody in second grade to that I can use my mind to beat this guy, beat this kid." And so I was, I went on to use my intelligence, my education. I was a bookie. I read, there was no books. I was into books and documentaries. I was literally that kind of nerd. I know I'm fly now, but back then I was just that type of nerd. So the thing that I did not realize was that something was being developed in me
Mhm.
along the journey. So every time I was met with some type of opposition, I would go, I would begin to think of a war plan.
Mhm.
Like, oh no, I've got to get them. I've got to, put them in a place, where they understand that, I'm going to dominate them in this area, that area. And I'm getting somewhere because this really, I believe, is, I can't discuss what happened with my divorce after being married 16 years. I can't discuss what happened with my divorce without me really, really, laying the foundation as far as what led up to me having a certain mindset. So I began to be a fixer. My mom tells me stories about my kindergarten teacher, Miss Marietta. She could leave, now you know this is going to be a long time ago. She could leave her kindergarten classroom and go down to the teacher's lounge and have her smoke break, her indoor smoke break,
Mm.
and leave her class to me. And they would say, "Well, who's watching the class?" She said, "I don't have to worry about anything. Aisha's in there in kindergarten."
Wow.
And I would assign people what they were going to. I would assign the other kids in the classroom what they were going to do that day for free play, where they're supposed to be choosing what they're going to do. I'm giving them assignments, and so that's what I'm saying. My dad didn't know that one conversation, he, created a little monster. So if if I felt in any way that intensity of to feel like intimidation is being sent my way, or negativity or what have you, I just went internally, and in my mind I worked out a plan. No, this can't happen. I'm feeling like this, what have you. Even though, of course, in those early years I wasn't able to kids aren't able to abstractly think or reason at that level. But that little bit of seed, I think, and that speaks to the power of Father's words. When they speak, when fathers speak into our lives, all the girl got all, somebody, he got to tell baby girl one time she's beautiful. And he's going to put an imprint in her heart and her mind and her spirit so deep that if he departs, if he disappears or whatever, she's going to keep looking for a void to try to feel that that space or that place that he imprinted, almost, like he just pushed his hands, and then the shape of his hand is just imprinted in her heart. And so it's so powerful and so delicate. That's what I've learned along the journey. But I would say after 16 years of being married, the situation that I encountered was one that ultimately led to me being divorced, and being divorced away from near about everybody I knew, with a very young child at the time, and also right before the divorce, my mother that came to stay with me for a little bit because of her living situation had a health emergency. So
Mm-hmm.
she had to immediately go on dialysis and stuff and things like that. So here I am, still working for the government, deciding it was okay that I wanted to be a revenue officer, which is crazy. And at the same time, taking care of a young child, taking care of my mom, who has a health is whose health concerns are great, very sensitive, life or death even, and then a divorce. So yeah, I know that was a lot to get out, but to me it was the roads that kind of led up to me ultimately being divorced, and the divorce was. We had separated a few times because of infidelity, and then this last time, that last time rather, I was just like, nope, because I began to, in the process, love me and
Mm-hmm.
become more introspective about me. It's funny, I wasn't self-aware, but I was in love, and then I get married. So it should be a box. I say when you go to get a marriage license and say you want to get married, it should be a box that says, "Are you self-aware? Yes or no?" Because a lot of times, so many people, they don't even know who they are. I know I didn't. I was 21. I thought I knew. I thought I had a great picture of who I was as a person, but I just knew some of the things I had been through. I really didn't get to the core of who I was until much, much later. And so it's that inconsistency, toxicity, the finding out that really, we had an attraction, and there were things that we appreciated about each other, but ultimately there was nothing we agreed on,
Mm.
nothing we had an agreement on. We and so lastly, that that disagreement led to, you know him feeling empowered or justified to step out or step away. And I had, given him a heads up prior to, and said, "Hey, I just want you to know, if you know if you think I'm gonna put up with that, you got another thing coming."
Mm.
And that's the other part. Like when I was talking about the imprint, because I didn't know why my dad had to leave the military early, but now I have a good suspicion because there were things about the way he moved, and and he was flirtatious and things like that. And I saw him in situations as a child where I couldn't articulate that something was wrong or something was off or inappropriate, but I had a funny feeling
Mm-hmm.
in my gut. And so hindsight being 2020, when I realized that a lot of times to we can marry our father and then want to spend the time trying to get him right, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, this is not your father. It's your husband. This is your husband. And so you notice the qualities. I love the fact that my dad was 6 feet tall, chocolate, pearly white teeth, can sing, slim build, never been over 155 pounds his entire life. He's 81. Even right now, he still teaches school, kindergarten. So he's active, and he was, people looked up to him, my classmates, even though we didn't have, multiple cars. We were stacking, in meager transportation. It was even some of our classmates, because my dad could do art and photography and sculpting and different things like that. He could sing, and anything he'd pick up his hands to do, he could do it. But at the same time, to know that they're enthralled by him, but our fascination with him was slowly on the decline,
Mm.
because it was like, hey, yeah, he's all of that, but we in this house going through some things, you know.
Right.
We getting the government cheese, we getting the powdered milk, the peanut butter in the can. You got to stir it up, and he has no problem with it. He's kiki and laughing. We got the box, Rice Krispies. Well, it wasn't Rice Krispies, just Krispies on it, and sorry,
It's okay.
I did turn my ringer off. Does it come back on? Oh, okay, never mind. But
So we lost you momentarily while Aisha's getting herself back online. Very powerful story that she's sharing here. Love the transparency, and just a reminder how sometimes you have to go through um, these challenging, adverse moments in life. And again, it's not that God is allowing it because He's looking to hurt you; that He's allowing it because He's looking to take you out, to destroy you in any kind of way. It's all a part of that journey. It's all a part of that process. So, Aisha, she's coming back here. We think you're good, Aisha. Your mic is muted. Go ahead and unmute your mic. Um, so we're getting Aisha back on track here, so she can finish telling us this wonderful story, her testimony, her journey. So she's just about set here, and we'll pick up where she left off at.
is my
Good.
mic unmuted?
Your mic is unmuted. You're back.
Technology.
That's okay. That's okay. So yeah, I was just kind of recapping a little bit with the audience. Just one, appreciating your transparency and sharing your story, and just reminding everybody how we have to go through the things that we go through. It doesn't make sense at the time. It doesn't always feel good, of course. I've oftentimes spoken to people, if you've never gone through a divorce, it's not the traditional "I quit you, we don't go together no more." It's a much more deep deeper emotional, mentally anguishing type of experience, regardless of how it all comes to an end. Just the whole fact of you separating from someone, that when you went into this thing, you thought this was supposed to be the forever, until as we say our vows, until death do us part. And so for that to be abruptly, I should say, come to an end, and then you still now faced with the challenge of being a single mom, young
Mm-hmm.
child, and in your case, you have a son. So, and a black son on top of that, and just the challenges that just automatically come with that, because we live in a society that automatically, has him marked as, not going to be able to make it, and you not going to be able to make it as a mom, and being able to defy those odds, and now have a son who's getting his college education, and he has his gifts and skills, and the plate is wide open for him to, as far as what he can do with his life. It's just really his choosing and what he decides he wants to lock in and focus on. So
Yeah.
I love the sharing of that, and just, and as you were talking through this, again, and I'm glad that you, before you started telling your story, how you wanted to make sure that you reminded everybody that, hey, I do come from you know, a home that is founded in Christ. God was a part of our lives in my growing up, whether, things looked like they were going well, and even during the times when things were going rough. And I think that's so key and important because, who better to have in your life, who better to have in your corner, particularly when you're going through those challenging times. It's a big cornerstone of why you're able to survive and make it, and instead of losing your mind and falling victim to the strains and the pressures of it all, is because you have Christ. It's because you understand who's ultimately in charge, and understanding he's going to make a way out of no way, even if on paper it doesn't add up, that you're not supposed to have enough money to have enough food to have enough to keep a roof over your head and all of that. He does a new kind of math, a different kind of math that makes it all different. That's why you have the stories in the Bible about the fish and the bread, and and other things where a little has been used to take care of a whole lot. That's just who God is all about and what he represents. And
Yeah.
that's definitely been a key component to your growth, not only in your younger years, but then again, as you found yourself faced with the challenges of, here I am going through a divorce. Here I am trying to take care of uh, an elderly parent who's having some health challenges. Because even to that, for those who have not experienced that, I've gone through that, you've gone through that. That's a challenge and a weight in itself, And then, of course, and then don't, on top of that, you're still having to work and make a living. And if you happen to work, a lot of our jobs out here, in these days and times, are high pressure, high stress, high demand jobs. So you got that stress, you got the stress at home, you got the stress with the marriage. That can make anybody lose their mind if they're not careful. But in Christ, having God at the center of your life, that makes all the difference in the world. And that's what I want people to take away from all of this, that no matter what it is that you're going through, no matter how difficult and challenging those times may be, when God is at the forefront and when you're leaning into him for that understanding, for that comfort, for that peace, for that direction, again, nothing is impossible for you to get through, and you can withstand that storm. The difference is that storm won't take you out. It won't destroy you. It won't consume you, because he's your covering. He's your eyes and your ears, navigating you through that storm, making sure that when you come up out of that thing, you not only do it standing upright, but
Right.
you're actually stronger and wiser and better as a result of it. So now you begin to look at storms differently when you get into this mindset and understanding. And again, I know that when you go through these things, for those of us who don't have that relationship with God and we don't understand, we see storms as a bad thing. When you have that relationship, you already know that if I'm going through something, it may not feel good right now, but God got something he's setting up for me. This is, I need to be excited for what is to come ahead, not getting caught up in the battles and the challenges of the storm. Because as you said, your father put into your mindset earlier, for whatever flaws and shortcomings that he may have, the one thing that he made sure, if there was nothing else he made sure to do right, he put in your mind that you have a mind that is powerful, that is capable of absorbing all that there is to know and understand, that you can use this as a powerful tool, as your weapon
Yeah.
of survival and greatness. And
Yeah.
you've done just that. And yeah, we have those moments where we have our laps and we forget who we are, what our worth is, and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. Because like I said, things like love, sometimes we
Mhm.
get blinded in the moment. Nothing wrong with love. God is love. So love is definitely a wonderful thing. But sometimes
Exactly.
we get caught up in the superficial of it all, and we lose sight of who we are and whose we are. Then yeah, we can easily, drift away, and we stop talking to God as much as we used to. We stop leaning on him like we used to, and we start trying to figure life out on our own and doing it our way. And until again, he has to let that storm kind of come around us until we get to a point where we say, wait a minute. And then that's when the light bulb comes back on. I'm like, okay, I forgot for a moment. I had a moment of temporary amnesia, if you will, but I've been reminded that I am worthy, that I am special, that I do have standards, and that I don't have to take. certain behavior, certain treatment, certain, anything that might be deemed opposite of what God would have for me. And so you had that realization and you made that difficult decision to part ways from a marriage. You made that, difficult decision to take on the challenge of taking care of your mom. You made the difficult decision to continue working, making sure that you could provide for yourself and for your son. Those are all challenging and difficult things, but you've persevered through that, and I think that's everything to speaks to who you are, the woman that you are today, and it's still more that is to come. But if you didn't go through those things, then you wouldn't even be positioned today to do what you do. I mean, you spoke about at the top of the show, when you were giving your brief introduction about yourself, and you spoke about being recently retired. And for those of you, if you have an opportunity to view this, or you can even hear in her voice, you're not speaking to a woman who is got one foot in the grave or anything. She's still got a lot of life left for her. So even to make a decision like that, to say, you know what, my well-being, my mental health, my overall happiness in life is more important than a 9 to 5. And because I know who's in control here, I'm trusting God to navigate this next phase of
Yeah.
my life. Because retirement doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of it
Right.
all. It just means this is just an opportunity to step into a new opportunity. And so that's
Right.
what you're doing. You're stepping into your new opportunity of life, your next level of life. And I have no reason to think that it won't be greater than the previous ones. And so, so I totally respect even to that decision that you made, that because that's a big one that many of us desire to make, and don't necessarily have the courage or the faith to step out and make that decision. So,
Much
um,
prayer.
much prayer. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So, Aisha, I'm curious to know, when you do find yourself going through, challenging times, like I said, whether it's some of this big stuff that we talked about, or even if it's just some of the daily annoyances that we can sometimes come across that, this moment of adversity, this moment of challenges at my doorstep that I got to deal with. What is it that you like to do that you find to be, sort of your routine or your regimen, if you will, that when you're dealing with challenging and difficult moments, walk us through the process that you like to go through that kind of helps you work through those times while at the same time keeping your head level and focused in the process. What works for you?
Well, I have a saying. I guess I should probably get it on a T-shirt before somebody takes it. I have a saying. Excuse me. God is too big to be random.
Hmm.
Doesn't do random. I believe God is so intentional about us that if we trust Him, like Proverbs 3 and 5 and 6 says, if and I mean trust Him with no information, no data, just trusting Him and I'll explain kind of what that looks like. But when in those difficult times, when through the divorce, when my ex husband determined he wasn't going to give me any money, no money for my son, no money for myself, and here I am still having the bills of the home, my mom's bills, everything related to my son as well, and he made that decision, and my coworker, who is now one of my best friends, said that her grandkids were her daughter had some clothing and shoes for that her grandkids had grown out of because they were so tall. Both of their parents are 6 feet and over,
Hmm.
and so even though she had a son that was older, a grandson that was a year older than my son, and one a year younger than my son, they were still large enough to where whatever they had, he could grow into them. So here I am during the time of the separation until child support started, for about the space of a year and a half. I didn't have to buy clothes.
Hmm.
I only had to buy socks and underwear, t-shirts. But literally every season, everything was taken care of. Clothes and shoes, I did not have to worry. I didn't have to purchase. And I'm just sitting there saying, okay, God, you're too big to be random. She doesn't even know the need that I have. She doesn't know we're both working at the same job, so we know kind of what kind of money we're making, but she doesn't know, the intricate workings of the situation I'm going through. And she just knew that I had a son that was around the age of her grandsons. And she's like, hey, just out of the blue. And hey, I got these, clothes and shoes, my grandson, da 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 da. Is it okay? Some people are funny about getting stuff from other people. Well, I told you our meager beginnings
Right.
back in Illinois. So we thought the Salvation Army was a church because my
Mm-hmm.
brother could only read the word salvation. He was older than us. So we just called it, can we go shopping at our favorite store? And we'd go around our favorite store getting stuff. And it wasn't until we were older that we found out that the Salvation Army was not a church. So,
Mm-mm-mm.
but in the interim, so we weren't funny about people giving things to us because we came from givers. My
Right.
parents were givers. And so during this time when I was in need and I had needs in the house or what have you, I was watching how doors would be opening for me to get things that were brand new. People that would just have a mindset, and even the mindset to, I just want to give him this, and I was looking and watching my son do nothing, but blessings would come to him and it would be a help to me. And so when he got a little older, we had a different kind of conversation because I'm like, you got to get your own blessing now, but to have gone through that, one the thing, my mantra, my saying, my heartbeat that is God is too big to be random. It does not matter what I have to face. If he said once that he's my shepherd and I shall not want, I trust him with that. And I'll know if I'm sitting up there and it's 11:59, at 59 seconds turning over, the clock turning over, he's going to take care of me. He's not going to see me out. He's not going to see me out here just bad because I'm his daughter. I'm
Right.
his daughter, you know. And the other thing is it took a lot of prayer, a lot of introspection, and open and honest conversations, especially during time taking care of my mom. I had to have some very hard, necessary conversations, and I prayed, before and in advance of those conversations because I want to be like my daddy, and I want to speak in love,
Mm-hmm.
but still mean what I say.
Right.
So, and if I had to set a boundary, I just set that the boundary was what it was. And because even if a person may not respect, may not respect a individual, a person, they can respect a boundary, you know. Um, and I think one of the last things that would be able to say that allowed me to navigate those the hardest moment and the hard moments is having honest people around me that love me. Not a lot. My circle sometimes is a dot that can tell me my blind spot.
Mm.
And I had to, of course, through that introspection, be able to say, okay, I'm not going, if they say they see this, I'm not going to fight with them
Right.
and say, no, you don't. You don't know my story. And, because even they may not know my story, but if that doesn't mean what they see, they don't see. And, to be able to accept that, okay, maybe I need this adjustment. Like a lot of times when we're going through hard things, we don't see how we treat the people around us hard too.
Yeah.
And so I've had, tap on the shoulder. Let me talk to you for a minute. Let's go get some coffee. Let's I don't know, I don't think this is how you want to come across, but you might want to take a pause. And that's how I had did things like Amnesty Day with my son in his teens because I knew those teen years would be rough and rocky. And we just had days where, okay, no holds barred. You can ask me whatever you want to ask me, but I get to ask you whatever I want to ask you. And he asked some rough questions, but of course, I'm a thinker. I had some for him too, but it allowed us to understand where we were at because we were both in some hard places, and that's one of the times is when he revealed to me that he, had anxiety, and I'm like, what? I didn't know what anxiety looked like because we would just talk to deal with whatever this is, just deal with it,
Exactly.
and show that brave face and don't let nobody see you sweat. And so I'm like, anxiety about what? And so I had to learn what that looks like for him, and then encourage him, to in ways that with this with his own individual, his personal spiritual walk,
Hmm.
because me, the little girl in the church, broken, had to get my own spiritual connection with God to as well, you know.
Right. All right. Well, that's some good stuff right there. You just you said a few words right there. I love the conversations that you said you had with your son, the amnesty moments. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it straight up. Let's lay it all out on the line and ask each other the difficult questions. Keeping those lines of communication, I think, are very key when you're talking about overcoming adversity and challenges. That's definitely um, a necessity to have that open lines of communication. If you're not willing to communicate, if you're not open to that, it becomes very difficult to get through challenging moments. I also love the fact that you talked about the necessary component of having people around you, and you emphasize, and I agree, doesn't have to be this huge crowd, just a select few folks who these are people who I feel that they genuinely and this is a part of my prayer that I say every day. People who genuinely want to see you win, they want to see you do well in life.
Yes.
People that you can be transparent and vulnerable in front of. People who um, I can, go to for godly advice, and they don't tell me what I want to hear. They tell me what I need to hear. Because you talked about those
Right.
blind spot moments. They'll keep it real with me,
Oh
but they'll
God.
but they'll do it in love. It's not a
Yeah.
judgment thing. It's not a to tear you down, but because I love you, because I care about you, I'm gonna keep it real with you and point out to you things that I think are, perhaps not becoming of you, or things that you might want to be cautious of, so you don't run into those pitfalls. People who and I love this part, people who pray for you, not only pray for you in your face, but they pray for you behind your back. Like they don't have
Yes.
to be in front of you to be praying
Right.
for you. So I love that you incorporated that element, and then of course we can't close out this part of the segment without just your mantra about God not being random. That's powerful in itself. God is not random. When you talk about just, and of course you're aware, and some of you who have an opportunity to listen to the podcast, you're aware of my book, Blessings in the Streets. That's what Blessings in the Streets is all about. Is the epitome of what you just said, that about God not being random. It'll come off as random from a worldly perspective. These
Hmm.
random people who you encounter, these random situations that come up, things that people oftentimes more commonly refer to as luck. But you're like, no, this
Hmm.
this this ain't this ain't luck that we talking about here.
Yeah.
This is nothing but God. When you find yourself connected to people or situations that meet a need without you even speaking the need, like you said, when I'm working a space where you know what kind of money I make, I know what kind of money you make, but you don't know what my situation is, and you speak to that situation without me even saying anything, it's not because you a
Right.
mind reader. It's not because you had a crystal ball or anything like that, or you had some insider information. It's because that's just how God moves, because he's not random. He's intentional, and he will pair you up with people will pair you up with situations that will meet those needs, and he'll do it over and over again. And just when you think he blew your mind the first time or the second time or the 10th
Man,
time, then he hits you with something else. The thing that wasn't supposed to happen happens. The thing that wasn't supposed to work out works out.
he does
And
it
again,
big.
and there's no luck in that. That is all God, all by himself, doing what he does for those who, his sons, his daughters, that he loves, that he's in relationship with, that lean on him, that understand that he is their head of their lives. That's what happens, and that's why the relationship is so significant. So I'm so grateful that you shared that component as you did, and prayerfully people will have a takeaway from that. For those who don't know or are struggling right now with how to um, deal with adversity, if you don't take anything else from what Aisha said today, remember first and foremost, God is not random. He is not random, so you don't have to worry about nothing random about him. You bring it to him, and he gonna be intentional. He ain't gonna always do
Right.
it the way you think he's supposed to do it, and don't even trip on that. You got to be willing, as you talked about earlier. You got to be willing to surrender to the point to where you don't even ask no questions. I just give it to you, and then I just let you do what you do, and whatever part of it you want me to work on or handle, whatever, you let me know, and I'm in. I'm not even going back and forth with the why, and I need all these details and particulars. Nope, because I know who's orchestrating this is all I need to know. So
Yeah.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So Aisha, if you had an opportunity, when you think back to this, where you are in life right now, the ups, the downs, the highs and lows that you've gone through, lessons learned, pains felt, and things of that nature, if you had a chance to speak to the younger Aisha, the Aisha that at one point in life was broken, the Aisha who maybe at one point in life didn't or had forgotten what her worth was, or didn't even truly understand what that worth was. If you had a chance to talk to her, or to some young ladies who are what you used to be, they're in this situation right now. Somebody could be listening right now that's in that old Aisha mode, that old Aisha mindset. What would be your words of encouragement and words of wisdom that you would like to share, that you think would be key in helping the younger versions of yourself be able to navigate, and in a healthy and appropriate way, navigate the storms and challenges of life?
Um, I would tell the younger version of me to quiet myself,
Mm-hmm.
get to a quiet place, and soak in what the Word of God says about me. If I would have really had and been aware of who I was or who I am, well, who I was back then, honestly, and been more aware of who God created me to be. And I'm saying, as in how He describes me in His Word, calls us, wonderfully made. And He says He beautified the meek with salvation. That He calls us in Exodus 19:5, not just any treasure, a treasure above all earth. And really, really understand that God, I want Him being too big to be random, me existing is not random. I would tell her to swim like Michael Phelps through the sea of opinion.
Mm.
Swim as hard as you can through the sea of opinions, and to love not only herself, myself, but love the part of not only myself as in what we appreciate, how sometimes in an interview they say strengths, and give us your strengths and weaknesses. Don't just love your strengths, but also love your weaknesses, because it's even sometimes in those weaknesses that you'll see the hand of God moving and navigating you to where His strength as the scripture says, is made perfect during those times. So when you get to the point where you feel like you can't take it anymore, well, maybe you can't take it anymore, but he can take it.
Mm.
When you get to the point where you're about to throw in the towel, well, wait a minute. Just if you're gonna throw it to him and pursue purpose. And you'll know when you'll run into purpose because peace is where purpose is. There's a
Mm.
level of peace that undescriptive peace where purpose is. That's what I would say.
Awesome. I love that. You hit it right, right spot on. So again, anybody listening, if you needed that words of encouragement, those words of wisdom, she laid it all out for you. I love the part about swimming hard through those through the seas of opinion, boy, because when we get caught
Well,
up in what other people think and
oh
what they
God,
feel about us and how they think we supposed to go and act and behave and do and say and mm-mm. Yeah, and again, emphasizing about yeah, you're going to have those moments where you feel like I'm ready to throw in the towel, but that's why you have to have that relationship with God because He recognizes that there's just some weights that are too heavy for us. There's some burdens that are too, too strenuous for us to lift. He doesn't expect it. We weren't not. It doesn't mean that He built us to be completely helpless, but we are still human. We have limits. And so
yeah,
he's saying, look, if you connected with me, you'll never have to worry about overcoming, even if it's bigger than what you personally can handle, because nothing is bigger than what I can handle. And as you said, you can hand that thing off to me and we're good. So
yeah.
again, that's why that relationship is important. And that's why so many times we struggle. And I've been there in my own period of times of life where trying to do it on your own, trying to be Superman, trying to be Superwoman, I got this. No, you don't. No, you don't. you know, and God will sometimes he'll just stand back and just look at you anytime. Let me know when you're done trying to sit there. You breaking your
Right.
track, trying to move this unmovable object. You've been trying for days, months, years trying to move, and I'm just standing. I'm waiting, patiently waiting. Anytime you're ready, all you got to do is say the word, and I'm gonna move it for you. So
Right. You
sometimes we
still
got to go
crying?
through that. Yeah, you done? Oh, you want some more? Okay, well, I got time. We'll let you go through that. So sometimes he has to allow us, and that's part of that. What I like to call that spiritual, workout. I got to build you up in build up your spiritual core, your spiritual muscle, your spiritual endurance. You
Mhm.
need to go through some stuff and to learn to rely upon me to get you through. And then even then, understanding that even when you are relying upon me, I'm not saying to you that you're not going to be without troubles or challenges. If anything, expect it to get ramped up because there is an enemy out there that doesn't want to see you build a relationship with him. There's an enemy out there that doesn't want to see you leaning to him for understanding and for strength and for comfort and for joy. He don't, and that enemy is going to up their war game, their war attack against you. And as you spoke to earlier, that's why you learn through your relationship with Christ how to build up your war game plan, how you put on that whole armor and you're ready to use your mind and use your heart properly to be able to make it through those battles and those challenging moments to overcome those difficult situations. So great stuff, great stuff. So Aisha, before I let you go, I,
Mhm.
I do want to give you an opportunity, or I should say, I want to give us the opportunity to, to celebrate you, to love on you, to acknowledge you. So if there's anything that you got going on right now, some exciting news that either just recently happened or something that's coming up, things you're working on, projects, adventures, anything, please share that with the audience. We would love to hear about that again, so we can celebrate, love on you, and if we need to connect with you somehow to get a piece of whatever you're doing, whatever that is, please share with us at this time. How's God blessing you right now? What's going on with you?
Oh, well, as we see, we said, well, as you know, Joe, after 25 plus years of government service, I'm retired. I've stepped away and took a leap. And in that leap, certain things, just, balls start, different things start, balls start to rolling, things start to moving. I had written prior to me retiring, I'd written back in 2021 at the end after surgery. I wrote a journal. So shameless plug coming. But It is Diamond Unearthing the Real You. And it is as you see, it's very, very thin. It's a small journal, and it just kind of asks some questions to help with your introspection of learning who you are, because the diamond is still a diamond, whether it's hundreds of feet under the ground or sitting in the crown jewels in England. It's still a diamond. And so it's all about who discovers it and what the process the diamond goes through. Is determined, determines its eventual appreciation, how people see and appreciate, the diamonds, even if it's if it's a nugget ring, they're still diamonds that just clumped together. It doesn't take away from it being a diamond. It's still considered that that does have some type of value. So when I wrote the Diamond Unearthing the Real You, the journal, now it is developed where it comes with a session, a teaching to, so we segment out the different steps that a diamond goes through in its process, and we align them with our own personal journeys and experiences. Not where I tell you, oh, you have to go through this, you have to go through this. It's all about recognizing that one of the parts of the diamond that the diamond goes through is a cutting. And so, whenever something's cut away from you, you can't get reattached to it. And so part of our journey in becoming who we are and being, and in relationships on this earth, what have you, part of the journey is understanding that there's some relationships that you may have for a moment, but once the detachment happens, you don't go try to pick it up. You'll do more harm, and you'll waste time trying to reattach yourself to what God has already ordained for you to leave. They were a lesson or a blessing, and it's time to move on. And so not only do we have the journal in this session, but over this past summer, a group of us ladies adopted three girls anonymously, and we've just been sending them gift cards and gift cards, gifts, sometimes their favorite food, jewelry, girly things, and what have you, to pour into them. Also with a copy of the journal, just to pour into them to let them know that they're diamonds. Their ages range from 9 to 18, and we are just wanting to love on them. We're looking to do, greater things moving forward, especially in the coming year. And I opened a business.
All
The
right.
Real Diamonds LLC is
Okay.
open, and it is with that business that we're structured to be a greater blessing to our youth, our young girls especially, and also something that's near to my heart as well. One of the things that happened during the time with I was talking about going through the divorce with my ex, and well, I mean, with me taking care of my mother, my son, myself, my sister, who lived 4 hours away. Due to a circumstance going on in her life, found herself and her three children homeless. And so I had them all come and stay with me during that time too, to help her navigate and get on her feet. Sometimes when we go through tough situations, we have to kind of be aware that some things start happening around us, and there it seems like it's an extra burden, but it was like a distraction, to keep me from being so in my feelings, and me being able to still be a conduit where I can pour and help. And so I have a heart, not just for people, not just for people in general, but right now I'm able to, because I'm no longer working, I'm able to help with the homeless ministry. So here in Dallas, Duncanville area, and in Monroe, Louisiana, quarterly go with the ministry that I attend, and also with other individuals that are now coming aboard and helping. And so I just say that I'm just kind of moving forward again. God is too big to be random, and I'm just trying to pay attention to those blessings in the street
There
I
we
bless
go.
you too, Doc.
There we
I
go.
bless you too. Yes, sir. Got to pay attention to those blessings in the street because they're in there. They're
There you
in
go.
there. We got to be aware. We got to just kind of get out of us so we can be aware of the great things God's doing for us and through us. So
That
that's
is
what I'm doing.
awesome. That is awesome. And so, if anybody wants to, whether it's get your journal, connect with your services that you offer, or even in any of the ministry work, what is the best way for them to connect, reach out, purchase? How do they do that?
All three, the best way to reach out to me. I do have a Facebook page, The Real Diamonds. Um, but if you're unable to reach me through Facebook, trying to search or try to find me or message me through there, you can at this moment either give me a call at 618-696-6958 and request your copy. I'm self-published, so you can't get it on Amazon because we really want to be able to tangibly touch. Even though we're building up a staff eventually, but we want to be involved in this process because we say one of our themes for Diamond, rather, our purpose statement. It's more than a journal. It's more than a journey. It's a movement. This is nothing if it doesn't cause another young lady to find another person around them and to be able to take their hand, connect with them, and help them come through. The connect One of the things, and I know this is not the spot, but I'm trying to say it real quick. One of the things that I was taught by my parents in seeing them open their doors was community. And
Mm,
that's one of the things I believe right now as a people, as believers, I'm going to just say Christians, as believers in Christ, that's one thing I believe we need to get back to is actually understanding that if God blesses us, it's not just for us. The blessings in the street is going to bless us, but we're going to be reaching to bless someone else.
love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So happy for you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, of course, prayers up for you and everything that you're working on, new business, the journal, ministry, all of it together. I just believe that God is he's setting the situation up for you to make big moves, to come alongside his people that need your voice, that need your works, to bring them to Christ. And we all have our unique pathways and methods to do so. And he's getting, and you're no different. He's giving you your unique creative pathway to do that. And I'm just claiming the victory right now that there's going to be all that and then some, in terms of its success and its reach. So I'm truly proud of you. I'm grateful to know you. Much respect for you taking that leap of faith, because it is a big leap to do something like this. But hey, that's what it means to be a visionary. When you're truly an entrepreneur and not just a business person, because there's a difference. Entrepreneurs are blessed with visions, and visions come from God. And so you got a godly work. You won't be able to do it alone. You're gonna have to. It's gonna be bigger than you, but you got to start somewhere. And I love the fact that you are, again, taking this post retirement and using it as an opportunity to again be a blessing for the kingdom of God, and just doing awesome and great work. So excited for you, thrilled about it all. And I encourage anybody who's interested in checking out Aisha services and products, please connect with her. She giving you the direct line. Aisha's on the main line. Tell her what you want. And she's ready to service you and help you in whatever ways to strengthen your relationship with Christ, and to help yourselves be a blessing. Not only to be a blessing to yourself, but also to be a blessing to other people, because that's what it's all about. So, and for our listeners, if you've enjoyed the content of everything that we've discussed today, if it's been a blessing to you, I know it's been a blessing to me. Please do subscribe. Please like. Please share. Please comment. Tell people about the Blessings in the Streets podcast, because this is what it's all about. Opportunities like this to share our journeys, to share our stories, to be transparent, to be authentic with it, with the hopes of encouraging, inspiring, uplifting, and most importantly, letting people know how important it is to have a relationship with God, the value in that relationship, and the significance behind it, and why it's not a recommendation of something that you just should just do just as a trendy thing. This is a must have in your life. Not telling you something that we heard, we're telling you something that we know from personal experience. A life that is led by God is a life of peace, of joy, of happiness. Doesn't mean that you won't ever go through challenging and difficult times, but the good news is you don't have to do it by yourself. And you have somebody who is all powerful, all knowing, all capable, and who loves you unconditionally. Most importantly, that will see you through those challenging moments. So, with that said, remember here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and where your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, take care of yourselves. God bless. Keep fighting that good fight. Keep leaning on to God. Let Him be the lead of your life. Let Him be that beacon that you follow. Don't quit trying to do life without Him. You don't have to. He wants to be in that relationship with you. He is waiting and willing and able. Embrace that, receive it for all it has to offer, and I promise you, it'll be the greatest decision that you ever make in your life. So until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you then.